Hello. Well, the video that's coming up is one I intended to keep until April Fool's Day and upload it at the end of March. However, I've done it now, so I thought, who knows what's going to happen between now and April the 1st. Real life events seem to be overtaking the nonsense ones. So here it is. Hello. Greetings and blessings. I now have to explain to you how the human race managed to go extinct. It all started when Count Dankula turned up at the Glasgow Sheriff Court, and the sheriff looked at his books and said, "This town ain't big enough for the both of us." No, actually, that was my little joke. What he said was, "Count Dankula, you have been convicted of a hate crime." Hang on. Just a minute. I want to ask the recorder something. I'm sorry, there's been a bit of a mistake. I thought they were asking me if you hate crime. Well then, it appears we got the wrong end of the stick. Many apologies. You're free to go. And to show you how sorry we are, you can collect a sandwich and a free drink of your choice from the canteen on your way out. Next! But as Count Dankula bemusedly wandered out of the Glasgow Sheriff Court, he little knew what had been started, because the sheriff had been infected by a virus of common sense which had first been created in a Russian laboratory. They were trying to make another poison, but when the scientists discovered what it was, they also developed common sense and committed suicide because they realised there was nowhere in the world where anyone with common sense could live. Unfortunately, the flask of common sense was simply labelled poison and ended up being brought to Scotland by a group of Russian assassins who thought they'd subvert the Scottish justice system by poisoning some of the judges, Sheriff O'Carroll being one of the first. It turned out to be highly infectious, and before we knew it, it had been carried on trains and boats and planes to every corner of the earth. No one realised that until a month later, when the Pope rang up the Patriarch of Moscow and all Rus and said, "Listen, Kirill, we've been at loggerheads too long. Why don't we both amalgamate? And to make sure that we don't trip up over minor ecclesiastical problems, we'll all convert to Protestantism." Having been similarly infected, the Patriarch agreed, so before anyone knew it, all the Catholics and the Orthodox had become Protestant. This gave the Protestants a shock, especially the ones in the alt-right, and they immediately converted to Catholicism and elected their own Pope, who took his seat in Albuquerque, and declared universal peace. With what looked like the end of the world, the Jews in Israel all decided it was time to convert to Islam, seeing that this would put an end to all Muslim complaints about Jews being in charge of what they regarded as their land. But the Muslims were then faced with the problem of having a huge population of Jews there, which they could do nothing about, seeing as they were now Muslims. So all the Muslims ended up becoming Buddhists. This, though, did not stop their territorial ambitions. They simply looked for somewhere else, and they invaded China. The Chinese, concerned about the hordes of Buddhists taking over their territory, fled to India. That wasn't such an odd choice, because they'd been trying to nibble at the Indian borders for years, and that made it perfectly reasonable sense. They decided to become Hindu, although they insisted on having a special caste created for themselves on the same level as the Brahmins. The Indians, terrified of the social upheaval that this shock to the caste system was causing, applied to return to the British Empire. The Brits aghast and hardly in a position to redon the mantle of empire, then applied at once to become the 51st state. The Americans suddenly found themselves having to deal with a load of American Muslim Buddhists, Catholic Ku Klux Klan members, and Brits who strode about thinking they should be running things anyway, and unable to understand what was happening in the world, they managed to elect Hillary Clinton for president. Having seized power and not wishing to lose it again, Clinton decided to nuke all the red states, which she did. Unfortunately, she didn't really understand computers that well, and that process set off the automatic defense system and rockets to Russia and China, who then retaliated. And the whole thing just, well, mushroomed, so to speak. So here I am, waiting in the queue for my number to come up for admission. There. So you see what you did, Count Dankula. That video really did mean the end of the world. Now, what's my number? 6,923,856,724. Oh, only another 1,916,713,103 to go. Well, at least I don't have to wear my glasses anymore.